Y'all hear me? Thanks everybody for coming. I want to welcome you all to XO Group's FoundHERS event. I'm Mike Steib. I'm the CEO here. If you're not familiar with XO, we are the parent company of The Knot, The Bump, The Nest, How He Asked, and Gig Masters. We help couples navigate and enjoy life's most important moments together. XO is a female-founded company, and we are a business predominantly managed by female executives and female leaders. So for us, it's our privilege to host these FoundHERS events. It's a privilege to be highlighting some of the most impressive female founders and entrepreneurs in the world here in our own office. Tonight, we're thrilled to welcome three exceptional female leaders from the second shift. Please join me in welcoming co-founders Jenny Galluzzo and Gina Hadley, and Kemp Steib, who's the CFO and also, full disclosure, the love of my life. So, thank you.
She's kind of the love of my life, too.
She's the love of your life, too?
God, it got really loud, really quick.
Gina's mic is hot. Okay, I've got some questions. We're gonna get to know you guys a little bit, and then we're gonna have time for questions from the audience. So, maybe first, just give us a little bit of background on each of you, so the audience can get to know the team.
I'm a Cancer. I'm Gina Hadley. I co-founded the second shift with Jenny Gluto in 2014. I came from an advertising background. I fell in love with a boy. He made me move to Seattle. I blew up my career, and I have been hustling ever since.
He's back there. So thanks, Eric. We wouldn't have met each other. I'm Jenny Galluzzo. I am the co-founder of the second shift. I came from a journalism background, and after getting pregnant and about to have my first son, realized that I didn't want to cover fires in the Bronx anymore, and instead I was looking to transfer the skills and experience to something different, and knew Gina, and we started the second shift.
I'm Kemp Steib, and I am the CFO. I had a long career in finance. I was an investment banker for more than 15 years, and I joined the second shift about a year and a half into its existence. So.
Wonderful. So let's get into it. Tell us where the idea came from for the second shift and how it all started.
Well, I think that we all know that there is a crisis in retaining female talent in the workplace. So I'm going to give you two scary stats. 50% of college-educated women will drop out between the ages of 30 and 40, which are career-building years. Another stat is that 50% of those women that start those jobs, only 3% of the C-suite CEOs in the United States are women. So obviously something is not working in between when we get into the jobs and when we reach the highest echelons. Jenny and I knew this firsthand, that we had to figure out a different way to look at our careers, and everyone around us, all of our peers, we call it like our tribe of all of these women, were having the same conversations over and over again. And if everybody's having the same conversation, and then the bigger conversation is, where are all the women? We had to figure out a way to solve that. So we came up with the second shift.
It sounds like an important social problem. Tell us why it's a good business.
Kemp, I'll let you take this one.
Just so everyone knows what we do, specifically, we are a technology-based marketplace that matches experienced professional women who want to work non-traditionally. That means part-time, project-based consulting with employers that are looking to hire people in a non-traditional manner, hire women in particularly. Why is this a good business? This is the way the modern workplace is going. The gig economy, which is essentially the freelance economy, is at a minimum $7 or $8 billion. 30% of the American workforce is currently working freelance. Technology has broken down the walls. We all know this. We can work anywhere. Why do we think we have a good business? We think we have harnessed a group of talented people that no one else has organized. We all know that there are incredibly talented professional women in their 30s and 40s that want to work, but we have actually found a way for businesses that want to engage with them to find them. And we sit in the middle, and it works great.
One of the things to point out that is also a super compelling point is in the freelance or gig economy, it is one of the only places, or the only place, where women have pay equity to men.
In fact, in the New York City area, women freelancers out-earn men by 32%. And I'm not sure there is any other industry or place where that is true.
So then you saw this problem that needed fixing. You had the idea. The hardest jump for any aspiring entrepreneur is to go from an idea to actually being in business. Tell us how you made that 0 to 1 jump.
It was really 0 to 0.25 to 0.5. Both Jenny and I, luckily, are extremely pragmatic in the way that we approach problems, and we are diligent problem solvers. So we did not go out for funding. We did not say, this is our big idea, and go to a VC. We talked to everybody that we knew. We talked to people that were in finance, people that were in hospitality, people that were in advertising and marketing, and we talked to the women who would be our members. And the first couple of jobs we did on Excel sheets. We didn't spend any money on technology until we figured out what we were doing. I, of course, lived in Seattle in the 90s, so I am a refugee of the dot-com first bubble. And I worked at a company where we blew through $10 million in funding and we never launched. And that is a real learning. And so one of the things that Jenny and I wanted to make sure we knew what we were doing before we started to spend any money. And we bootstrapped the beginning of it as well, because we wanted to make sure that we could ask and answer questions without being beholden to anybody else.
Gina built our first website.
I did.
She did. She's like, I can do this. I know how to do it. And she actually built the first landing page. It took her like so much longer than it should have.
Oh, so
and then we realized very quickly
my Venn diagram?
that we had to actually hire people to do it, and that it was money worth spending. But we really wanted to learn every single aspect of the business before we put any money against it, and that's how we went about doing it.
No, but this is a marketplace. You were connecting talent and employers.
Yeah.
If you just had the talent, you don't have a marketplace because you need employers and vice versa. How do you get a marketplace started?
I think you have to, I feel like we are in some way growing our own crops. This is the future of talent. This is the way that there's a constant conversation about how are we going to harness this generation of folks that don't want to stay at companies. Everybody's moving jobs. There's a talent crisis, especially in the senior level in a lot of companies. What we have done is, first, we've worked with companies. We have great partners, big partners who already know how to work this way. Microsoft is one of our bigger partners. They work with 250,000 vendors a year. They understand the value in working with consultants the right way. But in other areas, the startup world has no access to senior talent when they can't afford to bring it in. We give them access to the most talented professionals who can help them solve their startup problems without bringing on full-time head. Our head of sales is here with us today. I've lost all shame. The people that I email more than I should, but that's what it is. It's just a matter of it is a flywheel, for lack of a better term. It's just once you get that first job and our employer partners see how easy it is and the talent that they get, which they are consistently blown away by, they want to post the next project and the next project. Once you realize that you don't have to burden your full-time staff all the time with stuff that they are not equipped or educated or able to accomplish, it kind of becomes a necessity to work that way.
Maybe take us through an example where you've been talking to an employer and the light bulb goes off. What is it that someone who wasn't a buyer and then gets it?
One of the things, and Jenny can speak to this as well, I think one of the things that's very visceral about this is when you start to talk about the caliber of our talent, you see the epiphany that that's my wife, that's my sister, that's my niece. There are legions of talented women trying to figure this out, and there are very few people who don't have a connection to this kind of professional woman. And then it's usually the first job. It's let's just get something, let's not think macro, let's think micro. What do you have to get done today? And starting out that way, when that first job gets assigned and it's easy and it's professional and it's done perfectly, and our members they overperform constantly. It is an epiphany. But we are changing the marketplace. We are disrupting something, and you have to be patient when you disrupt stuff. And luckily, we're all very patient.
Your member, I've gotten to meet some of your members. It is gold-plated resumes, highly talented people. What is their relationship like with the second shift? What is it like for a member?
We very carefully curate and vet our membership. So we've had 12,000 applicants, over 12,000 applicants. And from that, we have currently about 1,000 women who are part of our membership. So we have a 3-step vetting process. We want to make sure that we can consistently send out the best of the best talent into the marketplace so that companies will love the experience so much they will continue to come back. And our membership, they are stellar candidates. They are the people who were the top level executives or SVPs, people with 10 plus years experience. We are not a re-engagement platform, so we are really for people who have stayed in the marketplace. Then, once you're in our membership, we really try to create an ecosystem for our members, whether it's having different events or providing content that they want to know, or hopefully having the ability at some point when we have a more tech functionality to be able to have women who can teach other women skills that they've learned and acquired. So maybe you were in marketing in one area, but you really want to learn more about digital marketing, so you can learn from somebody who's a pro on digital marketing within our ecosystem. There's a lot of interconnectedness in our membership, and that's something that's so great. So I want to, just an example of how awesome our members are. We just recently got a bunch of jobs from Alaska Airlines, and the reason that the CMO of Alaska Airlines knows about the second shift and uses the second shift is that she was a member of the second shift in between full-time jobs.
Oh, wow.
And I think one of the things that Jenny also is so amazing, and because she gets stories out of people really quickly, we intimately know who all of our members are. Jenny interviews, we're cloning her at this point, but she interviews every one of our members. So we can guarantee to our employer partners, we know who these women are. This is not some random jobs board and we put out a call for members and we charge you membership to just be a member and get access to these jobs. These women are carefully chosen, and they are we hear it all, so grateful. I just want to keep working. Can
you take us through the mechanics of the marketplace? What does the employer do, and then how does a member engage with that employer?
You want to take this one?
Sure. It's very simple. Employers come onto our site and they have a project in mind. They post a project. That means you write a job description and you choose a set of skills. It is a skills-based marketplace. Then, once the job is approved, it is sent to only those members that have those skills. So it is a skills-based algorithm. And then if you are a member and you have the right skills, okay, we have a graphic design job for Microsoft. Great, I'm a graphic designer. It shows up in your inbox. It is then your job as a member to pitch yourself for the job. You write a description. I'm Kemp, I'm really good at graphic design, here's my portfolio, here's my LinkedIn profile, etc. And then it's to be probably 8 to 10 pitches, sometimes more, sometimes less, per project. The employer then engages directly with the members, set up interviews, set up calls, etc. They negotiate the fee directly with the member. We stay out of that. And the fees can be daily rate, monthly rate, hourly. And then the member completes a scope of work. The employer approves it. The way our business model works is, in the majority of cases, we charge a 15% fee on top of the negotiated rate to the employer, and we pay out 95% of the negotiated rate to our members. So we keep 20%, and it works extremely well. If you post a job, you probably have pitches within the hour easily. And the ecosystem is working. We filled a job today that's going to be, more than $50,000. We have never spoken to them. They showed up. It's a real company. It's a great company, and they have a great job, and they filled it, and they're going to pay somebody $12,000 a month to do a lot of work. So it's great.
Another thing to think, we also do the back end. So for our members, we provide them. What? Kemp does the back end, but we provide them, access to these jobs. that they wouldn't otherwise have. And then we do all their invoicing, we do their taxes. We don't pay their taxes, we issue their 1099. They are independent contractors with a second shift, and we just provide that service for them to make life as easy as possible to work this way for both our members and for companies. So we go in as the vendor of the companies, and they pay through us.
Gina, you've been associated with a business that raised $10 million and didn't launch. You guys are quite different. You've been at this for 2 years now?
20 months.
You've had a lot of success. How do you think about fundraising? Maybe what's your fundraising strategy?
Well, we have been very frugal up till now. We have done everything. We've created a business that makes money every day on less than $300,000. We took very little money at the beginning. And now we are working with strategically aligned investors. I have to be honest, and I think I can get backed up here by Kemp and Jenny, we're really talking to women. We're really talking to women investors who understand this mission, who see how important it is to change the landscape of a career for executive women in this country. And that's how we're going about fundraising right now.
So a lot of the founders that we get to interview here regale us with stories about how stupid the male VCs are that they go to visit. So it sounds like your solution is you're just not going to male VCs.
And also, we're
not going to VCs in general.
We were not taking any institutional money.
Yeah.
Okay.
We went to a VC meeting once, and they started talking about valuation and how we were going to reach a number that would make them happy.
The only woman in the room who was about to give birth.
Yeah.
They called her in. She was the only woman that worked for them. They're like, we're going to put you in the room with these female founders because we're a fund and we don't have one woman that works for us.
And Gina was like, they were like, well, how are we going to get to this number? Blah blah blah. $1 billion. And Gina was like, I don't care about $1 billion. That's not real to me. That's not a number that I'm working towards. I'm working towards getting people jobs, making us money. We have a real business that's not some fakakta number that you've decided is important to you.
Well, my husband always says Excel is not a wish granter. Just because you put it into a spreadsheet doesn't mean it's going to happen. And so one of the things that we are very we're very realistic, and Kemp will take this. This is a huge addressable market. We are not just a mission-driven company. We're gonna change this. We're always gonna make a shit ton of money doing it. Kemp.
Of course, and I look. We have stories too. We had a moment where somebody said, "I don't know any women like that. My wife and all her friends. I wouldn't hire them to do anything." So it does exist.
That being said, he was the first person to write us a check when he finally figured out what we were doing and didn't even look at the deck.
Yeah.
You never know. But there are women who like to say, one of the people we're talking to she likes to say, I am marching with my wallet, and I am investing in women-owned businesses that support women, and I'm going to make a lot of money this way. And those are the people we're targeting.
That is great.
Right.
How did you know when you were onto something? How did you know it was going to work?
I would say the first time we had a job come in where we didn't know the parties on either side. We didn't know the business and we didn't know the woman, because at first it was like everybody we'd ever met, we made them go on the site and make jobs happen. But then when we were like, well, who are they? Like Kemp said, Thuzia, who knew? We don't know them. That's amazing. The fact that we haven't personally reached out and found these people. We hadn't found the woman to come onto the site. We knew that it was real when those people met, that job happened, they took off, it was a success, and we made money on it.
There's some things that are unusual about this team. One is a lot of the founders we talk to, it's like their first job. They're getting their work experience as a founder. You all had real work experience before you became founders. How has that affected the business, and how do you think that's made this experience different than if you all had done this 10 years ago?
I think one of the things part of the reason I enjoy going to work every day is we all trust each other implicitly. There is no head count. I trust that Kemp and Jenny are doing what they need to do because they know what their roles are. And it all just kind of organically kind of shook out. When Jenny and I started, I didn't know that I would be running business development and Jenny would be running membership, but her journalist background, she took those skills and she knows how to get the story, and she knows how, and she's empathetic, and she's able to create this community. I worked in advertising. Was lucky enough to work on the biggest account in the history of advertising, which was at Ogilvy & Mather. I worked on IBM. I understood from amazing people what it is to build a brand. And for me, we've built an extraordinary brand, and it is my job to communicate that story of what that brand can do to my employer partners. And as long as, I always say, as long as we stay on message and we stay on brand. And one of the things that I think we've been very lucky as a team is there's never been that bright, shiny object that's taken us off our path. We've never been like, ooh, maybe we'll do babysitting too. Like, we stayed, we're like, no, our verticals are marketing and finance. At some point we'll get bigger than that, but right now, let's stay on path, let's solve this, let's make it as big as we can, and then we'll move on to the next thing.
Weddings and babies are very good businesses.
I'm going to leave it to the baby people. That's what I'm going to do.
I don't want that to be lost here.
My other answer on the experience front is just that pattern recognition is a real thing, and I think it heads off a lot of potential problems that would come up when you've already seen them before 5 times. So.
Something else different about this team is you're all female founders, and that's still unusual in the industry. How has that made the experience different? How do you think the second shift is different?
Well, we went shopping before we came to this meeting.
We all got ready together.
We all stood in Jenny's closet.
That was fun.
Were you making fun of me, or you're serious? You went shopping?
No, we did.
No, we did.
My wife bought a dress.
She bought a
dress.
I didn't want to say anything.
We all went and tried it out together. But we've all been...
We are members.
We are members. That's the piece of it that's so important, is that, these are our friends, our colleagues, our peers. We are doing something that we know directly affects the lives of people that are very similar or that we have direct connection to. And the fact that we can say that to this point we have put $1 million in the pockets of our members who have worked through us is intensely gratifying for us as founders. So we feel like this is just a huge win-win, because our clients are happy, our members are happy. We are really affecting change in the modern workforce, and we are changing the lives and the way that women look at their career paths.
For the people in the audience who are interested in being entrepreneurs, what have you learned from this experience? What's your advice? What do you wish you had known 2 years ago that you don't know, that you now know?
That we should have told Jenny a long time ago not to text after 11 o'clock. I think we all have different learning. Mine, the thing that I feel like, not that we came late to, I think we were ready for it, but seeking the advice of folks who have knowledge larger than ourselves, because you're in it every day and you're so in it that sometimes you forget to look up and see what the landscape is. And you need to take in that advice from folks that are watching you, but also have the 100-foot view down onto what you're doing.
I'd say listen to your gut, because a lot of the times you got to do what you think is right, and then we'll have done what we thought was right and then read some book and be like, we did that. That's so great. Who knew that we were supposed to do it that way? And if you do things in the way that you think is the right way to do it, and you don't get distracted by other people's narratives, because when we first started, it was like, everybody's going for VC money and that's what we should be doing. And we didn't do that because we just instinctively kind of knew that wasn't the way we wanted to grow the business. And now we're very grateful that we didn't do that. And so you've got to just shut out the noise and focus on what you're doing and trust that your gut's is going to lead you in the right direction.
And I think that we basically Jedi mind tricked Kemp to come and work with us because we stalked her. I think Jenny attacked her in the Flywheel parking lot in East Hampton.
Basically.
But you also have to know where your skills are, and you have to find the people that supplement your skill set.
Like at the second shift, you can find them. And then my practical tip is that I think if you are looking for employees and you have an inkling that they're not going to work out, they're probably not going to work out. So
is that an I told you so?
Yeah,
a little
basically.
Bit?
No.
It's okay.
To stay on that, you've built a team. You're not taking investments from men. Do you hire men?
No.
We take investments from men. We have men investors.
Okay, you will.
Yeah, and we're going to work with men who are going to be part of the new tech move that we're doing, a new iteration of our site. We're going to work with men.
So you'll hire a bro to program.
Yeah. We will work with, we're not non-male
What do you look
friendly.
for in talent? How do you know when you have
These
someone
two
who's gonna be
ladies
good?
right here, that's what we look for. Pretty smiles.
I think we are. I think one of the things that we are blessed that we have a company that speaks deeply to our demographic, and talent has found us in some ways. I mean, I started talking to Sarah probably a year and a half ago, and she was on a completely different journey. And this idea kept coming back to her, and I think that when you're not building something, and not to undermine other people's businesses, but what we're doing is we're really trying to change the way that women work in this country, and I think that it speaks to talent, and talent is drawn to us. So we've been very lucky. We also grow our own crops. I mean, Sarah, who is here, who is our product manager, she came on as director of operations and started working with our UX UI, and we actually worked with a dev shop out of Seattle where women, we kept talking to dev shops and all the women were like in HR. And so we wanted a shop where the women actually coded. And Sarah said, I think I want to do this. And so she went to General Assembly and she took a 16-week class and she can code a full stack, which I don't actually know what that means, but I say it all the time. But this is one of the things is when you find talent and you find somebody who's bought in, you have to also trust that they're the professionals. And this is what the second shift is you give somebody the chance to do something that they've spent their lifetime doing. And we always say the tagline of our members is, I got this. And that's who we hire. We hire right now women who say, I got this, I did this for 15 years.
So there are a lot of people who are interested, there are a lot of people who are bought into the mission, but you also identify folks who won't work out. If someone's building a team, how do they know, or how do you know that you've
Ask
got
Kemp,
someone
she knew.
who's not?
She knew before we knew.
Ask Kemp.
I think if somebody sends you a significantly redlined contract at the very beginning of a negotiation and they spend a lot of money on a lawyer, that's probably not a good sign. But I think generally for a company like ours, you have to have somebody who's a believer in what we're doing and that there's a huge opportunity here and that is ready to run really fast at every opportunity that they've got. And also, it's a small group and you want somebody you want to hang out with every day, I think is really important.
Right.
Because life's too short. Come on.
We had a very early instance on Jenny and I went somewhere to meet someone that was maybe come on as a technology partner. And in the end, I was like, I can't have another meal with her. And that's when we kind of realized, like, if I can't eat with you, I can't work with you.
That's good advice.
At this point, there's 9 of us. I mean,
You want to be able
to, like,
crew.
if you don't know my sweet greens order, then I don't know what to tell you.
The three of you seem to divvy up the work really well. It sounds like that came about somewhat organically, but where did you end up? Who does what? And then what requires all three of you to put your heads together?
I deal with all the members, so anything that has to do with membership or vetting or communication, messaging to our member community. Gina is in charge of business development, and she is amazing at it. And one of the ways in which things fell out is that you kind of play to people's strengths, and this is something that I always knew Gina would be amazing at, but I'm so lucky because I would be so terrible at it, and I really hate doing it. And so luckily I have this partner who I can completely rely on to shoulder that burden. And Kemp comes on, and we have Kemp who is just a whiz at all the things that we know we aren't good at. And so then she comes in as this like bright, shining, amazing princess.
She's our financial princess.
And she just like,
My role was pretty clear.
Yeah.
And she's so good at it, and so everybody's really good at the things that they're in their lane to do, and then there's so many ways in which things overlap. And so, I'll take business meeting. We all are drumming up business all the time. We're all talking to different members, and there's so much cultivation of the business that happens just all like constantly, and we have meetings once a week to talk through everything. And there's 4 of us in a pod. There's not so much that happens behind closed doors. So that's when the heads come together.
One of the things that's been great about building a team also is the new skills that have come in. I think Sarah is great. We're not great policy and procedure people because we were just kind of doing everything. And Sarah's been very much, both Sarahs actually, about we have to make sure that we know what we're doing when we're building the team. You need to be able to communicate them. We're going to bring on more people. And that's a discipline. And so I feel like we're being trained every day because it's all in here. So how do you make sure that you bring everybody in and they understand essentially how we work? Hi, Sarah Lambert.
And that we figure out how we work.
Yeah.
You've referenced 3 different Sarahs in the last 30
There's
seconds.
Sarah. One of our members before she came to work for you is right there.
Yeah.
Not anymore.
We have 2 Sarahs.
Weekend jobs
There's
with us.
Sarah and Sarah and
Sarah and
Sarah.
Sarah.
So it sounds like one of our Sarahs has a side hustle.
Exactly.
20% of our members have full-time jobs.
Is that right?
Yeah. Have full-time jobs and are either taking on extra work on the side or are trying to figure out if they're going
looking
to
for the next thing.
downshift and they want to figure out what's out there before they make a leap, which is great. Try before you buy. Not anybody in
you,
the room.
Sarah
Not
Lambert.
anyone
Not you,
at
Sarah
this
Lambert.
company should do that.
When you disagree, how do you resolve that conflict?
Okay, first of all, we very rarely disagree. I will say Gina and I from the beginning have really agreed on almost every single thing that has happened.
It's weird,
In
like-
a weird way. Do you like this font or this font?
And we go
both like
1,
the same
2,
font.
3, A, and we both choose it.
That's one of the things that's been gratifying and kept us going on the path, is that knowing that we've always sort of had the same opinion on how you grow things, and Kemp too, where we're going to go and how we're going to go, and we really, I think, listen to each other's perspectives.
Yeah, I think you have to respect one another's opinion. I recently floated a concept of a slight change in the business a few years down, and I was roundly told that was not going to happen by my 2 partners, and that's fine.
And
So-
at the same time, we've had all different things where things have come up and you've said, maybe this idea, and Kemp will be like, absolutely not, that's a terrible idea, we're never doing that, and have, show why it's a really bad idea. And then, we just defer to her being an expert in what she does.
Yeah. Is there anything that your husbands could learn from that experience?
Never. Nothing, honey, nothing. 2 of our first clients, we made them hire second shift members at the beginning. Could you just do this on an Excel sheet and talk me through every one of the interactions you had with this member, and then what happened? I'm going to follow your mails, the whole thing.
Now, another way in which you're different from other startups, other companies, you're all parents.
Yeah.
How do you make that work?
How do we make that work today, Eric? We were in the dean's office at 9 o'clock this morning. Look, my kids are much older. I feel like I'm the cautionary tale sometimes. You have to also have respect and trust your teammates that when something is important, they're going to have your back. And my schedule is different than Jenny's and different from Kemp's, because my kids come home, and when my 15-year-old turns on the Smiths and starts to play the ukulele, I know that I need to figure out what's going on that day, as opposed to when there's some K-pop and we're really happy in our room. So at a certain time of night, I put my device away because I want to make sure that I'm there and I have dinner and I'm doing homework. But it's tricky. It's a balancing act. But one of the things that I have to say, and I feel so grateful for, is I have no guilt about it, because I know that I'm doing something that's important, and my kids are watching me build something. I think that Jenny's sons did this amazing poster for her birthday, which was just recently, and in one of the M's of mommy was the second shift. I mean, our kids know what we're doing. They understand that we're doing something that we're passionate about.
I love that. As you think about where the business is going, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, what is it going to look like?
At the moment, we are building what I think is a scalable, repeatable, predictable, and profitable business. It can be a big business where we run it and pay ourselves and our employees and our investors really well. We also think there are a lot of very natural homes for this business. I recently, last week, went to a conference for the executive search industry, and that is a conference where a bunch of executive search guys looked at each other and said, LinkedIn really hasn't affected our business. They really said it. So I think, if you think about sort of talent and executive search and companies like that, there is a real need to look at non-traditional ways of managing and acquiring talent. And the multiples are much better in what we do than some of what they do. So, but for now, we're trying to grow really fast, and we have other revenue opportunities to pursue, and we'll see where it goes.
So shifting the conversation a little bit from the second shift to what you all are learning about the future of work, where does this go next? Maybe talk a little bit about the gig economy. Talk about how you think the employers in your network how they will be thinking about labor 5 or 10 years from now.
There's a real groundswell that is happening in the world. The gig economy is a $7 billion economy. It is 53 million Americans are working this way. So this is a big deal. And obviously we are a piece of the gig economy. We are not, that is a giant sum that includes everything from Uber drivers to high-level management consultants. So, but this is a movement that's happening. We say millennials and working women want the same thing. Everybody is seeing that technology is breaking down the walls of the offices. People are requiring that there's more flexibility in their life. And we're poised to really capture that space and claim it for the second shift.
You've answered that question before, haven't you?
Yes.
That was really tight.
This morning, I think she did.
How should for an employer who wants to get it right, how should that employer change their human resources practices, how they recruit, how they retain their talent, how they treat their people?
Well, I actually think that we have tasked human resources, which is a department that is a lot of the time asked to mitigate risk. It's very hard to ask them to disrupt the way that they do business, because that's not always their job. Their job is to figure out when everybody's going on vacation and how not to get sued. So one of the things that I understand, this is a learning curve. I understand that there are a lot of arguments to be made for how will my full-time employees feel when there's somebody coming in and out, and that's great, and that's a lot of noise, and I sit through a lot of it. My answer usually is, this is a tool for you to retain your full-time employees. This is also a way for you to bring in the expertise when you need it, when you see yourself in a situation where there's just not the talent in the room, and giving your full-time employees the opportunity to do the job that they were hired to do. Mm-hmm. We're also there are a lot of industries just grind their employees. That is not great for retention. So I think that employers need to realize that, like, happy employees, and I also think you and I have discussed this. If you want flexibility in life, you better be the best at what you do. Right. If you think that you want to work at home on Fridays, you better prove that you're worth it. Yeah. And so I think that it is going to have to be a partnership between employers and employees in order to earn the way that we want to work. Look, you cannot get out of college and have no experience and go to your boss 6 months later and say, I'm going to take Wednesdays and Thursdays off. Like, somehow you have to, and get paid full time to do it. Right. You have to earn that right in some ways, but I really do believe it's all changing. We all have, none of it. I know I don't use my phone to the fullest of my capacity. We have computers in our bags. Why do you trust me to go on a business trip and do my work, but you don't trust me to take my kids to school 2 days a week? Like, I'm going to get my stuff done, but you actually have to get it done in order to show the employer that there's different ways to work. And look, we're also not giving our lives to brands anymore. The average, it used to be that you would go and work at General Electric and you were there for 27 years. It's not really happening anymore. And also, to be fair, how do you get the best talent if you have the same people that have been in your building for the past 27 years? So I think we are going to see everybody start to realize that this ebb and flow, like this current, is going to be good for employers and employees.
You all sit in an interesting position to see really talented people who've done a lot of the things that other folks would like to do in their careers. If you were advising young woman early in her professional career, what would you tell her to do? What's your advice?
I think our advice is that although there are many reasons, you cannot stop working. And we are building this business to create a way for women to work forever as a freelancer or to tread water at critical periods in their lives, because the status quo of you have to work full-time no matter what because it is so hard to get back in, or you have to quit forever is not okay. It's not okay for us or younger women. It's not okay for our daughter or Gina's daughter. And that is my advice. There are many ways to work. We believe we are building a big business that gives people an alternative way to work. But my advice is do not quit.
And I think what we're going to see is this is going to it's going to change. It's going to be gender blind. We are seeing the fact that the tech companies are in an arms race to give as much paternity leave as they are to give maternity leave is showing that there is a fundamental shift in the way that employees view their life, and that there is much more of a live to work, work to live kind of it's the ratios are changing, and hopefully we will someday see the gig economy, and we'll still maybe we'll bring on men. Who knows what'll happen? But I think that this is a fundamental shift in the way that we all look at our lifespan, the career lifespan.
I hear from women a lot who are a lot younger than our average member, which is probably 35 to 45. So I hear sometimes from women in their 20s, early 30s, who call and say, this isn't for me now, but I'm looking at the future, and I just want to know what my options are. And I am amazed by how organized and how much forethought they have. I would never have thought that way when I was their age. It just wouldn't have been something. I mean, I had an entire game plan and career trajectory that I had laid out that totally was blown up. And so when people are thinking, like, so can you tell me what it looks like? What's the average amount of jobs people get? And you're 10 years out of where you even think that you might want this to be your life. It shows me that people are really thinking ahead of time about the careers they choose, the way that they plan their future, what they want their family work life to be like. And that's fantastic. And so if those are the people that are going to be in a position to make change within their own organization, to create that space now and pay it forward so that in the future, when they want to use that flexibility, it's there, that's their responsibility to do it.
Before we go to the audience for questions, you guys have had a really great run so far. What are you most proud of?
I always say that I'm still so proud that I am so happy to go to work every day, that I love the team that we've built, and that the things that we set out to do, the opportunity that Jenny and I saw, like sitting outside a coffee shop you were so pregnant in Crosby Street, or I don't even, like, it held true. We knew that this was what it was going to be, and now we're bringing on true believers to build this with us. For me, that's all of it.
Wonderful.
I agree. I love going to work. I love what we're doing. It's really exciting and it's really fun to make a change and to be part. Also, the political and social climate has really matched where we are. So being able to say that we're actually doing something that changes, whether it's a group of people's lives, it's the way the workforce engages with women in a certain way. That's our piece of a bigger dialogue that's happening in the world today, and that feels really gratifying.
I would echo what we said earlier, which is that to date we've put more than $1 million in the pockets of our members working this way. And also every time I read resumes and read the pitches that come in and see the caliber of people in the network, it's unbelievable. I'm very proud. It's also a huge responsibility that we bear to get these people working.
Congratulations on all your success. We're going to go next to questions. Sarah. Another Sarah.
That's weird.
Only Sarahs are allowed to speak this evening.
Sarah, anybody else here with a different name?
Thanks.
Pleasure, Mary.
You mentioned how personal your approach is to interviewing members. I'm curious, in your product roadmap and in your plans, how you plan to scale that to maintain a personalized approach and feel like you know each of your members.
We are already doing it. So after doing 1,000 calls, we basically have this down to a pretty scripted science. And so we're able to have people who help me through the vetting process, just through the various steps, and then can be trained to do the phone calls as well. It's a very simple welcome call. It's just finding out a little more about you, explaining the various steps of the second shift, and really finding out if there's anything that we've missed in the first part of the vetting process.
You are not giving yourself enough credit though, because Jenny can smell it if something's not right, and we're training other people. We call it unscalable customer service, but we'll always do it because it's our special sauce. Like, we're only as good as our product, and our product is our members.
Other questions?
Is that box?
I think technically you can throw it at people, but it's very unwelcoming.
Okay.
Please don't throw it at me. I have no athletic ability. I was curious about, you hear this happening to older women where perhaps they're laid off and then they have a hard time finding another job because of their age. Is there any way, is the age of the women that are on this program hidden in any way, or?
What we do is we'll ask for your experience and how many years you worked at a company. We don't list those years.
Okay.
I do have to, but also because we are not a re-engagement platform. We are not for the demographic that took 15 years off. There are other companies that do that. Our business model is to bring the best product to our employer partners, because we actually want to break the way that business sees bringing on this kind of talent. But it's the reason that we don't have pictures on the site. It's the reason that we don't do any of that kind of hey, I'm Gina, and because I want you as an employer to look at the person's experience, where they worked, what they did, and read that pitch and have nothing else in your mind as to what the requisite requirement is for that person. I don't want them to hire the prettiest girl, though all of our members are beautiful in my mind.
So I have a question directed mainly at Jenny in regards to your recruiting. So I'm a girl in my 20s, looking ahead, and I'm not your demographic, but when you're doing those interviews and placing the candidates in the jobs, what kind of soft skills are really standing out across the board, or even evolving hard skills in the industry that are getting jobs or, accepting these members to your platform that we can apply and work on, so one day, when we become members or, looking at that platform, these skills are in place?
Because you're younger, you probably already have the skills. But a lot of the companies, so much of the social world and the digital marketing is spread within every facet of every organization. So even if you're a CFO, understanding, and you're a financial person, understanding the metrics and the analytics of digital marketing and how it works and why it's important and how it affects all the different areas of business, it's something that we had to learn. And once we did, it was actually something we thought was a pretty simple piece of just pictures, and when you actually dive into it, we got quite the education. So I think that as a skill is something that really translates into every area. So that would be the piece that I think would be the most important.
The thing that I think we educate our members consistently on is don't bury the lead. If you worked at the XO group and this is what you did and you worked, shine it. Don't hide your light under a bushel. We as women unfortunately undersell ourselves. Well, I think I could do that, and I worked at Goldman Sachs. I was an MD. I can solve this problem, and here's how I'm going to solve it. It is that idea of really highlighting what is, and it's part of the reason that we built the platform as a skills-based algorithm. What we wanted you to do was find what you love the most about your career and do that over and over again. I worked in advertising, but my favorite thing to do, I did all of the events. I loved organizing events. I would bring in teams from around the world. But if you looked at my resume, it wouldn't really shine that way. So one of the things that we wanted to do was allow our members to focus in on what they did best in their careers and then go after that consistently over and over and over again. But don't bury the lead.
Learn how to sell yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I got to tell you, the guy is definitely bullshitting his way into every job.
And ask for what you want.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to ask.
Here.
Hi. So over the past couple of years, I've been seeing that there's more companies similar to yours that are specifically targeting women and moms, like Pray, Fairy God Boss, etc. So how do you, I guess, see yourself as differentiating yourselves from them or working with them?
We are not just mothers, we are women. Because for us, it's not just about, there's responsibilities that pull you out of your career for many, many reasons. Trailing spouse, ill parent, and whatever it is. It just typically seems to, we see a crisis in retaining female talent in these critical years, so that's what we're addressing. We see it's rising tides for me. As many people that can focus on this problem, great. Opry Groups does something very different than we do. They are a membership. They give content. They give great advice for their members who haven't worked in a very long time. It's about your best resume, how you take a headshot, how you go to an interview. Our members know how to do that. There are a couple of another, and we actually find that they're allies. The more of us that focus on this, the more light we can shine on this, the better it will be for everybody. Jenny was just on a panel with Fairy God Boss and Power to Fly this morning. And so we are all in the same, I feel like we are all on this ride together. I really do.
It's a big problem. We need a lot of arrows to slay Goliath.
Yeah.
So really, you're supposed to throw it?
You want to catch?
Nice.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Hi. So cool. So I don't know if that question with Sarah back there about the ageism question was answered. I'm not sure. I heard you say that you target to women who are in their 30s and 40s.
No. We don't target to anybody. That would be the largest part of our demographic, but we have a lot of women who are over and people who have many women who have had big careers and then have chosen that they are like, okay, this is my next phase. I'm going to live on a houseboat and work 6 months of the year or work as a consultant and come in and out of business and different jobs that I want to take, and this is a great way for me to be able to do that. So there's all different reasons why people use the second shift. We are age blind.
But are your customers age blind as well?
That's why we don't list age. That's why we don't say you worked at IBM from 1979 to 1989. It's just the years that you worked there.
That was my best job. It was so good.
Was it?
And I think we are in the business of selling seasoned experts. And seasoned experts in most fields are probably not 25. So if you want to build a brand and you have a beauty business, maybe you want somebody who worked at L'Oreal for 20 years. As opposed to somebody who worked somewhere for 4 years. So I think, if anything, people should, and companies should value the experts that, by the way, they couldn't afford on a full-time basis.
So you mentioned that you target the seasoned professional. It makes total sense, but there are not necessarily seasoned professionals who might also want that same flexibility that your platform can offer. So what's your recommendation for people who don't necessarily have that pedigree but may also want that flexibility?
It depends on how long you've been in your job and what you do.
What you're an expert at.
What you're an expert at. We don't have if you haven't worked here for 10 years and you can never join the second shift. If you're in mobile media, you can't have been on the job for 20 years because it didn't exist 20 years ago. So it's very much on a case-by-case basis as what you do and whether or not you're at the level in which we think that it's inappropriate for us to send you out into the workforce. Are you going to get the job because you're going to be competing against somebody else in the same field who has 20 years experience and you have 4? You're not. It's an unfair advantage. So for that, in that sense, we don't want to have, we want people to be a little more seasoned. But it really, on a case-by-case basis, is how we go about through the vetting process.
It's also, I think, that this was the demographic that came. This is how our membership grew. This is a crisis for women at a certain period in their career. It is a crisis in those career building years. And that's what we're addressing. I do believe that we will push the boundaries on both sides of that age limit, but at this point, this is a massive problem, and it's in those career building years when you drop out. It is not when you're 22 and you decide you want flexibility that you're going to screw the rest of your career. It's when you're 32 and you're a managing director and there's nowhere else for you to go because you've reached a certain level, and if you step away, that's it.
I guess it's more about like career advice, because not all managing directors are 32, right? Like a lot of managing directors are older, and it can take a while to get a you may be 15 years out of school, but may not find yourself in a senior VP position.
Yeah, and I think I just said that as an example, but I think that 15 years out of school, like, you have experience under your belt. You've done stuff. Like, you've built a career. I think one of the things that Jenny is saying is, like, you have to have some experience, because otherwise, how can you get the brief and know exactly what you're supposed to do? And if it has to be done by Friday, there is no learning curve. And a lot of consulting is about coming in and being the expert in the room.
And look, we are believers in all types of retention. And if that means more employers thinking about working flexibly with full-time employers, we're big supporters of that. The last firm I was at, they did not do it. It was not an option. So you had 12 weeks of maternity leave and you came back and that was it. But I also encourage people. I rarely have calls with members, but I did today. And the woman I spoke with had a long career in food CPG, and particularly in like organic food. And she said, I think I'm being too narrow with my focus. And I said, you absolutely are being too narrow with your focus. You can definitely take a job marketing a product that is not food because you're really good at this. She's like, oh, you're right, I totally can. And, I think you should think about broad applications for the skills you've built.
Transferable skills. How do you take one thing and turn it into another? How do you take a journalism career and turn it into something that has totally different, but has a same sort of balance in the way that you're using your skills? It's not. You don't have to think about careers as like particularly linear anymore, and you don't have to think about it in the way that you're so focused, and because you booked events for Glamour Women of the Year doesn't mean that you can't book events for a private equity company. True story.
Time for one more.
Hi. You mentioned that your members set their own terms and rates. Do most of your members have negotiating skills? Do you offer advice for first-time negotiators, or do you have advice for women who...
We're involved in the process. So we know our members need advice. We're here for them if they need advice. If they have a question about, what's the right rate, or, what are they thinking, there's a lot of back and forth that goes on, so they can rely on us if they need to. Because a lot of our members are active consultants, this is something that they already know. They have their rate, they have that practice. Some of the people who come from, let's say, like banking, this isn't an area where they really understand it, so we can help kind of tell them what they should be thinking or how to do the first few jobs, and provide that service for them.
Each of you is a very effective negotiator. What's your advice for someone who would like to be a very effective negotiator? Rather than just for your members, if someone's asking you, what does it take to negotiate well? It's
courage. I think it is. I think we all know what we want, and it's the courage of being able to, no matter what, asking for what you want. And you also a lot of the times, I think we have to take our personalities out of it. It's not personal if somebody doesn't agree with your terms. And I think that, unfortunately, it becomes very personal very quickly. So I think that's another one of the things that we've learned.
We have really had to train ourselves, because I think I just did it. We had to train ourselves not to say, I think. And we had to train ourselves not to say, maybe, we believe. Because I think, I did it again. There is such a unconscious dialogue that women have, where a lot of things are qualified. Yes. In the way that you say things, or you ask for things, or you apologize for things. And when you hear other people do it, or you repeat the same sentence over and over, and you're having this conversation, or you're going out to ask for money, it's very clear the way in which we say things, and then you hear how men say things, and the way that men ask for things, and the way that women ask for things. And when you lay it out, it's shocking, and it's really kind of upsetting.
But it's addressable.
We've trained ourselves. We're trying really hard.
So tell us what not to say anymore. I
believe, we believe.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. We hope.
We hope. That was a big one. We believe it can be.
But I also think in terms of the way that our marketplace works, a lot of the times employers will say, I have 10 grand for this job and I need it done in 3 weeks. And so it's not as nebulous as it sounds. There are many times there are parameters, and I work with businesses all the time saying, like, if you don't actually know the rate you can request from members, but I know in your mind you know how much money you have for this job. So what we try to do is have a balance so that there can be a back and forth negotiation, but we try very hard to make it not a completely blank slate every time on every project.
And I would say for anyone out there working freelance, we see who employers choose, and not in all cases, but it is usually not an economic choice. They often are not choosing the person who pitched the cheapest rate. They're choosing the best person, which says to me, you should price yourself for what you think you deserve and what is warranted, which is probably more than you think. It's more than I thought.
The work you all are doing it's important for America's economy. It is important for our daughter. We are wishing you all the luck in the world, and we thank you for coming today.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Yay! Thanks, guys.